Now, 16 people across Florida, including these 4 local men accused of being part of what prosecutors call a white supremacist gang. Investigators say the gang is responsible for violent crimes. And prosecutors say the gang engaged in murder, kidnapping, and robbery, as well as other crimes.
The 4 suspects from Northeast Florida made their first appearance in federal court in downtown Jacksonville this afternoon. News4Jax reporter Eric Avanier was in court for the hearing. He's joining us now to break down the charges. Eric?
Yes, well, this afternoon we learned that all 4 suspects from the Northeast Florida area are accused of committing or conspiring to commit acts of violence against members of other white supremacist organizations, and we learned it involved the use of deadly weapons. 4 suspected members of the white supremacist gang Unforgiven, who are from Northeast Florida, sat at a table in front of federal judge Monty Richardson, who ordered they all remain in custody without bond, while 38-year-old Levi Sharp of Putnam County faces up to 40 years in federal prison if convicted on charges of assault and kidnapping. 35-year-old Ryan McLaughlin, who is also from Putnam County, 38-year-old William Walker of Jacksonville, and 40-year-old Ryan Howard of Orange Park are facing charges of conspiracy to commit assault, with shorter potential prison terms if convicted. Prosecutors say the motive to commit such crimes were either to gain entry, maintain status, or increase their position within the gang. They also say the victims were members of rival white supremacist groups like the Proud Boys, Aryan Brotherhood, and Race Baiters. News4Jax crime and safety expert Ken Jefferson says attacking another white supremacist group is what really sticks out in this case.
What they're saying is even though they almost kind of have the same purpose as to what they do or what they stand for, sometimes there's an initiation process to see if you can be loyal to that one particular group that they want you in, to see if you'll be able to cross the line and defy another hate group.
According to the indictment, 2 of the other suspects were at Columbia Correctional Institution in 2019 when they assaulted someone. Unforgiven does not appear on the Southern Poverty Law list of 14 hate groups in Florida, but it is recognized by the Anti-Defamation League as a white supremacist gang within Florida's prison system. These are their symbols, which look similar to symbols of other hate groups. We don't hear much about this group.
Typically, when we have conversations about white supremacist groups, it's usually after an incident or of some sort or an arrest of an individual who is a proclaimed member.
And in this case, the incident involves alleged acts and conspired acts of violence. One other suspect of the 16 suspects was charged with assault on people attending a peace walk for Black Lives Matter last summer. Reporting live from outside the federal courthouse, Eric Avanier, Channel 4, the local station.
A major bust in Florida. NBC News reporting 16 members of a white supremacist group in Florida charged in a sweeping racketeering indictment. Let's get right to NBC News Justice correspondent Pete Williams. Pete, this gang calls itself the Unforgiven. Who are they?
Well, federal prosecutors say these 16 men were part of a white supremacist gang. Court documents say they illegally distributed guns and drugs and committed acts of violence, including murder and kidnapping. One was accused of assaulting protesters last year at an event called Peace Walk for Black Lives. The prosecutors say these gang members were required to get tattoos, such as bearing a swastika, an iron cross, or SS bolts. All of them are Nazi symbols. One of the group's goals, according to court documents, was creating a front to resist and rebel against what they called, quote, constant and almost brutal victimization of whites in Florida state prisons. They're accused of providing contraband to members and associates in prison to earn support and expand their influence. And investigators say members of this group were also intent on attacking a rival white supremacist group, the United Aryan Brotherhood. The prosecutors say Unforgiven is a criminal organization, and they have filed racketeering charges, which are widely used in fighting organized crime groups. Court documents say members used corrupt law enforcement officers and state employees to gather information about pending investigations and prosecutions, Allison.
All right, Pete Williams, thanks so much.
First time you are hearing from an accused killer from behind bars. Wade Wilson is charged with killing 2 Cape Coral women. It's been nearly 4 years since Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz were murdered.
Over the last 6 months or so, Wilson sent letters to NBC2 making some wild accusations, from claiming his innocence to a conspiracy that reaches the depths of Lee County institutions. Did you kill Christine Melton and Diane Ruiz?
No, absolutely not. We wasted no time getting straight to the point. For a man potentially facing death, Wade Wilson had a lot to say. His appearance today is much more sinister than some of his early court hearings when he was first charged with murder more than 3 years ago.
I'm not a monster. Yeah, I'm not a saint either by any means. I've made bad decisions in the past, of course.
He admits he met Christine Melton at a bar during a night of drinking and spent the night at her Cape Coral home. But he claims he left the next morning and she was alive.
Even your own father testified that you called him saying you met Melton at a bar, you spent the night together, you went back to her house, and you didn't know why, but you choked her, rolled her up in a carpet. How do you explain that?
Right. Well, those things that were said to my father, they were said by me. Of course, they were false, too.
Cape Coral police say while driving Melton's car, Wilson picked up mother of two Diane Ruiz, choked her, and ran her over multiple times. As for the confessions to his father,
I was forced. That wasn't a call that I willingly wanted to make.
Wilson claims it's all part of a conspiracy being covered up, one that he's trying to expose. He says he was recruited from Key West to be part of a crime organization in Lee County.
A lot of things that we were doing from Key West to Fort Myers, including the human trafficking, including, various other things, prostitution with the women, drug trafficking.
Wilson says some of the prostitution was happening at a local spa, and he can prove there was nefarious activity happening there.
What's the proof?
Cell phone records will show, text messages will prove, and these are things that my lawyers already have.
When I called Wilson's lawyer, he wouldn't answer any of my questions. I'm not sharing the name or location of the spa. Wilson claims Lauren DeMola worked there, Cape Coral's most well-known missing persons case. She hasn't been seen since 2020. Wilson says high-profile people use that spa, and some of the people involved in the alleged crime ring are testifying against him in his murder trial.
I am the loose end that is so easily just X'd out.
Talking with Wilson, it really does appear like he's trying to curry favor and save his own life. He talked a lot about former Lee County Sheriff Mike Scott. I talked with Scott on the phone. He told me Wilson's allegations are outlandish and not true. So now let's talk about that alleged crime ring. Fort Myers police told me they haven't found anything regarding human trafficking. Cape Coral police said the Lee County Sheriff's Office and the state attorney's office are aware of his claims, but they're not looking into it because it didn't happen within their jurisdiction. LCSO said they couldn't answer my questions, and same with the state attorney's office. And as far as Wilson's claims about Lauren DeMolo, Cape Coral police said they don't think there's any connection between the two because Wilson was locked up before DeMolo.
The man accused of murdering 2 women in Cape Coral just tried to escape from jail, but Wade Wilson didn't get too far. Thanks for watching NBC2. I'm Peter Bush.
And I'm Kelly Burns. Wilson is accused of 2 brutal murders in Cape Coral. Almost a year ago to the day, police say Wilson went on a drug-fueled killing spree, murdering 2 women in 48 hours. Christine Melton on the left and Diane Ruiz closest to me. Tonight, Wilson, along with his cellmate Joseph Katz, are in even more trouble. Reports say they tried to smash through a window and break out of jail. NBC2's Ashley Dyer is live at the jail right now on Ortez Avenue, showing us how deputies caught the pair.
Wade Wilson is accused of viciously murdering Ruiz and Melton last October. Less than a year later, he faces new charges. Deputies say last night, Wilson tried to break out of the jail through a window. Last night, Wade Wilson, who faces 2 first-degree murder charges, and his cellmate Joseph Katz tried to pull a get-out-of-jail-free card.
The window in particular in question, they started to remove some of the weather stripping, okay, and they started to work on that window with a couple of bolts.
You can see the damage in the bottom right corner.
This just proves that he's not a good person.
Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcino says the men plan to use a window as their escape route. The sheriff calling it a failed attempt from the start.
There was no way to get through that window physically, even if it was open, okay? Furthermore, we have a series of layers after that that they would have to penetrate to get out, and that's not happening.
The attempt to flee his prison cell comes almost 1 year exactly after Melton and Ruiz were found dead. Diane's boyfriend can vividly remember.
October 7th was the day he killed her and she became missing. So I'm not looking forward to that day.
Ruiz was found dead in a field in northwest Cape Coral. Melton found dead inside of her home.
She was a funny girl, you know. She was always happy. She was just super nice. Yeah, she was a good girl.
Debbie McCabe lived right next to Christine.
Christine was a really, really quiet person. And I could hear beer bottles hitting the garbage.
And was home the night she was murdered.
I didn't see him. I heard him.
After Christine was killed, Debbie installed an alarm system.
I just can't imagine him being out again. He scared me.
As family and friends continue to grieve the loss of Melton and Ruiz, they're relieved to know Wade Wilson will be sleeping right where he woke up, behind bars.
He should be locked away for the rest of his life.
In addition to the 2 first-degree murder charges that Wilson faces, he and Katz now also face attempt to escape a prison and criminal mischief charges. I'm live in Lee County, Ashley Dyer, NBC2.
Wade Wilson has a pretty disturbing record. He was already a felon before the murders of Diane Ruiz and Christine Melton. Wilson had been arrested several times in Lee and Palm Beach counties. He's accused of raping another woman he was dating in Fort Myers. He was arrested for that, but once again bonded out. He's also accused of stealing from his girlfriend and pawning her stuff. After he bonded out that time, he kept skipping court dates. NBC2 spoke with Wilson's ex-girlfriend on the phone when he was arrested for the murders last year. Just listen to some of the horrible things she says he did.
Tied me up in the back of my own car and tied my mouth shut and my arms and legs and beat the crap out of me.
He has 2 sides to him. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He absolutely can be the sweetest guy that you've ever met in your whole life. But he's also a monster.
Count on NBC2 to stay on top of this story for you.
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Appreciate you guys checking out the channel. Today, we're going to be going to Florida. I'm surprised we haven't talked about Florida more often, actually. We're going to be talking about a prison gang, street gang as well, Unforgiven, which was making the news, especially a few years back. They've been around, actually, for quite a long time. Said they were developed in the 80s. So they are a white supremacist prison gang. One of the main things about them, though, that is very, very unique, and we'll get to this in a second, was they were willing to attack other white supremacist prison gangs and really had no qualms about it, really did not hesitate about it. So an indictment came down in 2021 that racked up 16 members of Unforgiven. They were charged at the state and at the federal level. They were accused of using corrupt law enforcement officers, state employees in aid of crimes, getting information ahead of time to help them in their criminal exploits. So basically, the 4 that we saw in the news clips and all that, 1 was from Jacksonville, 1 was from Orange Park, 2 from Putnam County. 16 total guys were indicted. They engaged of acts of racketeering enterprise, engaged in acts of murder, violence, kidnapping, robbery, obstruction of justice. The normal run of gamut of crimes. The indictment also claims Unforgiven used corrupt law enforcement officers and state employees to gather information about people, investigations, and prosecutions, and to smuggle contraband, incarcerated inmates, including into the Columbia Correctional Institution in Lake City. So, the typical outside influence, being able to get contraband and certain things into these inmates. This is what this gang was able to do. So, the indictment charges each of the 16 defendants with committing at least 1 violent act in aid of the gang Unforgiven, including kidnapping, conspiracies to commit assault, threats of violence, and assaults. Jacksonville resident William Walker, a.k.a. The Duke, was charged with conspiracy. Ryan Howard, a.k.a. Otto, 39, of Orange Park, was charged with assault and conspiracy. Levi Sharp, a.k.a. Sketch, of Satsuma, was accused of 1 count of assault and 1 count of kidnapping. Ryan McLaughlin, a.k.a. Pretty Boy, who gave the judge a Pomona Park address, was charged with conspiracy as well. And just to kind of give you guys an idea, right? And this is how these guys in these gangs, man, they never stop. Whether you're locked up, whether you're on the streets, it doesn't matter. You're all in, you're all out for the gang at all times. And kind of give you an idea, right? It says these crimes occurred in 2019, and all 4 of the defendants had been released in 2017 and 2018. So like I said, they just hit the ground. Running. So According to the indictment, Unforgiven required an unusual level of loyalty, even for white prison gangs. We'll get to that in just a second. They required applicants to study Aryan philosophy and commit acts of violence as a prerequisite to membership, which is common, right? Blood in, blood out. They then were expected to be battle ready at all times. The indictment, which called Unforgiven, quote, the enterprise, said the group promoted a climate of fear, required demonstrations of loyalty, and enforced compliance. Prosecutors wrote that members would and did kidnap, assault, batter, and stab members and associates of the gang who would not abide by the enterprise rules or the gang's rules. Remember, they used the term enterprise in the indictment, okay? So it's that fear tactic, right? Where as a gang member, you know, if I step out of line in any way, or if I even think about stepping out of line, I'm going to be punished. And gangs like this, they're not going to ask questions and then attack. They're going to attack you and then ask questions. They'd rather be wrong in the sense of we're going to stab you, beat you up. Oh, we were wrong. Hey, sorry about that. Than not do anything and be wrong and may not be able to get to you, right? So it's like shoot first, ask questions later kind of a thing. Some of the victims of the assaults alleged in the indictment were members of rival groups as well, the Proud Boys, Aryan Brotherhood, and race baiters. And one of the crime experts for the news station, Ken Jefferson, said attacking another white supremacist group is what really sticks out in the case. Quote, what they're saying is, even though they almost have the same purpose in terms of what they do or stand for, sometimes there's an initiation process to see if you can be loyal to that one particular group and if you are willing to cross the line and defy another hate group. So, yeah, we may all see eye to eye. We may have some common beliefs. But if you are a member of us, a member of Unforgiven, you are not a member of the Aryan Brotherhood. And in fact, to test that and to prove that, we're going to have you go against them. We're going to have you go stab one of them up or go beat them up or go cause a problem with them. And that does stick out to me. This is one of the only cases I've seen where there was like white gang on white gang fighting, and not for any huge reason, right? Just as like almost a test of loyalty. What's interesting is they don't appear on the Southern Poverty Law list of 14 hate groups in Florida, but it is recognized by the Anti-Defamation League as a white supremacist gang within Florida's prison systems. So, some of their symbols they use, and they're similar to other ones, right? That consists of an interlocking iron cross with SS lightning bolts in the center, according to the Anti-Defamation League. Their numeric symbol 21, 2, 12, substituting letters for numbers. The 21 stands for unity, 2 for B, brotherhood, and 12 for L, loyalty. So, UBL. Just certain things that are typical of the white prison gangs and certain things that aren't. Another guy, David Howell, he had major attacks during a Black Lives Matter rally in 2020. There was another guy, he's a member of Unforgiven, and among a handful of the more than 500 people charged with crimes in the January 6th Capitol attack, protesting Trump's defeat in the election. And you know, his name was Michael Curzio. He was sentenced to a misdemeanor, 6 months to be exact. So, the one that we also have to talk about is a gentleman, and I put his pictures up, a guy by the name of Wade Wilson from Fort Myers, Florida, facing and ultimately got the death penalty in the murders of 2 Cape Coral women, has reputed ties to a violent Florida prison gang, and yes, that prison gang is Unforgiven. Wilson was found guilty in June of 2019 of the murders of Christine Melton, 35 years old, and Diane Ruiz, 43 years old. The jury recommended the death sentence for each of the homicides, and sentencing is scheduled for later that month. They were trying to get him a new trial, all that good stuff. He even masterminded an escape attempt from the Lee County Jail, but it didn't work out. But it does show in court records that Wade Wilson had ties to Unforgiven, and he's got that look, man. You know, he's one of those guys, too. He's well put together. You can tell he's a good-looking guy, but he's tattooed head to toe. And what he did was absolutely horrible. Christine Melton, 35, grew up in Illinois, moved with a friend to Cape Coral where she worked as a waitress. Melton and her friend Stephanie Sailors met Wade Wilson, then 25, at a Cape Coral bar on October 7th, 2019. That morning, the trio ended up at Melton's duplex. After Sailors left, Wade Wilson strangled Melton to death as she slept in her bed and stole her car. Diane Ruiz, 43, was a mother, engaged to be married, and worked as a bartender. A short time after killing Melton, Wilson saw Ruiz just walking along a Cape Coral street, asked her for directions to a nearby school. Wade Wilson lured her into the car, and when she tried to leave, beat her and strangled her, and then pushed her out of the car, and then proceeded to run over her 10 to 20 times. Her body was found in a field 3 days later as, quote, vultures, literally vultures, circled overhead. Wade Wilson's father played a role in the capture. He called his dad, confessing to the crimes in gruesome detail, kept telling his dad, quote, I am a killer, I am a killer. Confessed some of the details to his dad, and yeah, just absolutely horrible. Wade Wilson was found guilty June 12, 2024. 2 counts, first-degree murder, grand theft, battery, burglary, and petty theft. During the penalty phase, the jury voted 9-3 and 10-2 in favor of the death penalty for murder, and he ended up being sentenced to death. But, you know, the media plays a big role in a lot of these cases, and plays a big role in my channel, right? The ones that I can find, the news clips and stuff, those are the ones that are going to make my channel. And Wade Wilson, he has that look, he has that story, the level of brutality, the level of violence. And they are going to really hammer home the fact that he's got ties to the Unforgiven Prison Gang. So there you guys have it. Hope you enjoyed it. Unforgiven Prison Gang. They are no joke. They're still very active in the Florida prison system. The fact that members are more than willing to go after the Aryan Brotherhood, which is kind of the gold standard for the White Supremacist Prison Gang, says a lot about them. No fear, no hesitation. It's all about power, control, and respect, guys, just like every other video. Appreciate it. Until next time, peace.